Why do I read?
I live in two worlds. One is a world of books.
For me, it's books, books, books.
The mind needs books like a sword needs a whetstone.
I guess people like to read about the things that they want most and experience least.
Books feed me.
Once upon a time.
I read it in a book once.
Is this a kissing book?
I don't care. I'm not ashamed of my book.
It's not right for a woman to read. Soon she starts getting ideas and thinking.
I checked that weeks ago, forbidden like reading.
You have never interested me more.
I have many leather-bound books, and my apartment smells of rich mahogany.
Now, when you read, don't just consider what the author thinks. Consider what you think.
I love that book.
I hated that book.
How can you read this? There's no pictures.
Don't read this book.
Those books are good. This might be the best book I've ever read.
I'm gonna go read.
Go ahead, read.
Why do I read?
I read because this world is modeled after me.
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
Great.
How was your day?
It was a busy day.
You're
and
always so busy.
You know, it's crazy because like today I was like, I'm going to have a lot of time on my hands to actually get some things done. And then it ended up not being that way by the time it was all said and done. And then Ricky was supposed to have ceramics class after school, so I was going to get like an extra hour, but then it got canceled, so.
Well, gosh darn.
Gosh darn. How was your day?
It was good. I've had my notes on this one for a while.
Me too.
Postponing.
I know. One day it will also be like not like 10 days before our episode's supposed to come out that we record. Because like we've both had this book read like for the majority of this month.
I know, right? Yeah. And like I'm almost done with Winter in New York.
Yeah, I'm like over halfway through.
Anyways, yeah, I just want to go ahead and do a disclaimer. I've been like on and off like nasal, throat, cold, sick for like 2 weeks. For our listeners. So I've actually been sneezing all day and my throat's been bothering me, but I might get a little hoarse as we go.
Okay, well maybe you'll get that like sexy like phone sex operator voice like raspy.
Like the hoarse raspy.
Yeah.
Well, I'm telling you that's probably going to happen. That's why I'm saying this. The weather is starting to get really cold here. I think it's supposed to snow this weekend and it'll be the first snow of the year for Indiana, for where I am in Indiana anyway. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
We had a little dusting last weekend.
A dusting?
A dusting of snow.
Frosting.
Here in the Utah mountains.
Frost yourselves.
Frost yourselves. You know, yesterday, it was like a weird freak, like in and out storm though, because like I was late for work because I looked out the window and I was like, oh, clear skies. And then I checked my traffic app, like, oh, clear roads heading to work. And then I looked at my weather app, and I feel like it's the perfect sum up of what it's like to live in Utah. The app was broken. It was like, it's 79 degrees outside. I'm like, no, it's not. And then it was like, snow, 81 degrees. I'm like, no, it's not. And then I start driving to work, and I get like 10 minutes in, and all of a sudden it was like whoosh, and there was like a blizzard, and it was like standstill traffic. And then in another 10 minutes, like it was gone. And then the sun came out. Like,
that's crazy.
What are you drinking? Are you, same brain?
Same brain.
Yes, I'm going to open this bottle of Italian Chianti that Rose got me. Her and her boyfriend went to Italy and...
Oh, wait, that's France.
That's France. Italian, like Mamma mia.
Jeez. That feels a little too much. Like,
Mamma mia.
Caprese salad.
Little cantalone.
I love it in the office when the warehouse guys sell Michael drugs. Oh, he pays like $500 for the bag of drugs
salad.
And they plant it in Toby's desk and call the police, and they come there like it's a caprese salad. They sold them their like Wet old caprese salad from lunch.
So funny.
He's like, what? A caprese salad? He's like, yeah, there's a little chunk of mozzarella right there. I am drinking a pumpkin pie latte.
Oh.
I got this cold foam from International Delight that is pumpkin pie, like whipped, and you pour it in your coffee and it makes it like a latte.
Ooh. Well, dang it. I don't want to be drinking alone. Maybe I should drink something else.
Well, when I'm done with this cup of coffee, I'm going to switch to a cranberry apple spritzer. Is that better?
That is better. I feel better about that. I will not wait for you. I'm going to get started on my wine, though.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers, friend. Every time I sip my coffee like that and make that noise, my husband goes, "It's not soup." He is screaming in the car right now, hearing me do that on here.
Lita.
I'm shutting it off. I can't.
Okay.
I can't do it. I can't.
Welcome, Bookmates. We read Legends and Lattes this month by Travis Baldree. Look at my pretty, special edition.
Oh my gosh, that's so pretty and green. I love it.
Isn't it cute?
Tiffany ordered the special edition of the two books that Travis Baldree has written, which is Legends and Lattes and Bookshops and Bone Dust, which is a prequel to Legends and Lattes. Those are beautiful. I love that.
Right? And then look at the back art. It's different. And look, you can see the little mouse poking it, like thimble poking out through the door. Isn't that cute?
I want it.
You got the regular version?
I got the regular edition with Viv and Tandri on the cover. And I actually this is what drew me to this book. Like, I noticed it on Book Talk the first time I saw it. And I was like, ooh, that sounds kind of cozy. And the cover was kind of cozy. They're making coffee and serving cinnamon rolls in their little coffee shop. And one of them is a green orc and the other is a pink succubus with horns and a tail. And they're two women and they're just like doing their thing at work. And I was like, that looks intriguing. I want to read that. And then I came across it at a local small bookshop. And I bought it immediately. As soon as I saw it, I was like, there's that book. I want it, because I couldn't find it in the store. Now, this was back when it first came out, I think. So
it was the TikTok, like viral TikTok sensation.
Yeah. And also, I was ready for a nice, cozy book after Misery. I wanted something light and homey for Thanksgiving time.
Yeah.
So here
Shall we crack into it?
Let's crack into it.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. We're going to talk about the entire book, front to back. Nothing's off limits. I wouldn't say there are major spoilers in this book, but this is the disclaimer anyway. We're going to talk about all of the aspects of the book. Nothing's off limits. So
we also talk about other things, usually in between with our sidebarring. And we cuss, we talk about triggering stuff. So expect that.
No holds barred. You've been warned. And if you haven't read the book, then maybe hit pause, go read it, and then come back and enjoy it with us. Or if you want to know what all the fuss is about, just keep listening and enjoy our take on it. And if you are unfamiliar with this book, I'm going to give a little synopsis here. Usually I just kind of rapid fire this, but I was kind of having fun while I was doing my notes, and I wrote a few things down. I actually am going to do a quote from page 3 because I feel like it sums up the book really well. After 22 years of adventuring, Viv had reached her limit of blood and mud and bullshit. An orc's life was strength and violence and a sudden sharp end, but she'd be damned if she'd let hers finish that way. It was time for something new. So that's on page 3. So Viv is the main character. She's an orc. She's a badass bounty hunter. And when a mission takes her to the city of Azimuth, she discovers a gnomish delicacy called coffee. Her first sip awakens her soul like the food critic in Ratatouille. And she decides, you know what? I'm done with this life of violence. I will find a kingdom and open a coffee shop. So so she like spends a few years like going on all these like quests and missions, like taking names, kicking asses, and saving up all of her money so that she can do this. And her final quest has her slaying the Scalvert Queen, which I'm guessing is sort of like a Shelob-esque spider monster from the description of it.
Yeah.
And but it hoards treasure like a dragon in hardened saliva. But Viv doesn't care about any of that. She's only after the Scalvert Stone. For 'tis written on a scroll. Well nigh to Thamic line. The Scalvert Stone of Fire draws the Ring of Fortune, aspect of Heart's Desire. So she slays the queen like a boss, rips its head open, shoves her arm in, yanks the stone out, and then she just like wipes the blood off her brow and she's like, all right, I'm out. I'm gonna go make some motherfucking coffee.
She's like, finally, the last quest.
Done.
All I had
Done.
to do
I've got it.
was rip someone's chest apart with my bare hands.
So she settles on the kingdom called Thune and buys a dilapidated old horse stable, buries the stone, this magic stone, under one of the tiles, and fixer-uppers herself a coffee shop with the help of a woodworking hob named Cal. She hires a succubus named Tandry to be her barista and a wee mouse called Thimble to make pastry delights. Yeah.
I love it. That was beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
The Scalvert Stone is supposed to draw good fortune.
And yeah,
it's supposed to draw the Ring of Fortune, aspect of Heart's Desire. So a lot of people think that it's going to bring you wealth, prosperity.
Yep. So she was like, I'm going to need help because
I'm an orc and I killed people like 5 minutes ago.
Right. And now I'm just going to be like, you know what? I'm going to put an apron on and I'm going to make lattes.
And nobody knows what coffee is.
No one knows what coffee is in this place. It's like a rare delicacy.
It's like this cute little like city, villagey kind of medieval vibe of a city with like shops and homes like all lined up together. And she picks out this livery, or is it livery?
A livery. The stables.
A livery. Alive. It's so alive in there. She purchases with some of her money the livery and refurnishes it into a coffee shop.
And at first people are like, I don't get it. So then they like do like free samples and stuff to kind of draw people in. And then they find this little mouse who can make delicious pastries, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we should do that also." So it's kind of like basically a medieval episode of HGTV, and they just discover Starbucks.
I do have a note, a reference quote for the beginning of the book that I thought fascinating. Bit of trivia for you. I noticed the word alfalfa was mentioned. I'm always discovering new words and stuff while I was reading. On page 4, she followed the road down and into the valley as the fog burned away, and a lonely farmer's cart tottered by, stuffed with alfalfa. I never knew that alfalfa was an actual thing. I thought it was just the name of the character. You've
never heard of alfalfa?
I just thought it was the kid from The Little Rascals. I just thought that was his name. So this is like fascinating to me. I learn something new every day when I read. I didn't know. But if you didn't know, alfalfa is a real thing. But I understand now why his name was Alfalfa, because it's like a bean sprout, and that's why his hair is shaped like that. It's supposed to be like an alfalfa sprout. Just in case you wanted to know, because I didn't, alfalfa has many uses, including shut up, Timmy. Including a livestock feed, a human food, and a medicinal herb. And usually in food is used as a garnish.
You don't say.
So, yeah.
So I guess I kind of skipped ahead a little bit, but like, did you like the book? Did you like it? How'd you like it?
I loved it.
Ooh,
I loved it.
You loved it.
I loved it. I thought it was heartwarming and cozy. There's a quote on the front of the book, a review by Shannon McGuire. It's sweet, beautiful, and most of all, kind. I hugely recommend this book. And that's how I feel exactly about this book.
Aww.
It was beautiful. It was well written. It was fascinating. It was a quick read. It was a cozy read. It made me feel good inside. And I loved it. Did you like it?
I liked it. Yeah, I wasn't like in love with it, but I liked it. It was a really cute book. It was a cute story. I feel like for me it was not what I expected and stopped short of what I wanted it to be, but I feel like it was what I needed it to be in that moment. Like the last couple months have been really rough for me. So I feel like my brain and my heart just like needed like just a nice little cleanser that just like I didn't have to think about too much. I feel like if I had read this at a different time, I might have felt differently, but I liked it.
Yeah, it's good. It's great. I enjoyed it a lot.
I will say that I'm not 100% like understanding how big the hype got for it though, just based on the book. Like I liked it. It was fun, but I didn't finish it and go, "Oh my god, this was amazing. I'm going to recommend it to everyone I know." It was just like, "Oh, that was cute." And then not think about it anymore.
Well, I would recommend it to people that I know because it made me feel good on the inside.
It definitely did that. It had I loved the found family aspect. And in the beginning, I really liked the dichotomy of like the opening sequence in the prologue is she's just like I was saying earlier, she's just like shredding out this like beast skull so she could rip out the skull first. And she's like, ugh, blood and guts don't bother me. I'm gonna go make some coffee now. And then just like, bye. Page 1 of the prologue, and it just like starts right out. Viv buried her greatsword in the Skulvert's skull with a meaty crunch. Black blood thrummed in her hands, and her muscular arms strained as she tore it back out, and in a spray of gore. The Skalvert Queen gave a long, vibrating moan, and then thundered to the stone in a heap. And I was like, ooh, there's like two sides to her. And I do feel like I wish some things were I think I just like wanted more from it actually, is because I really enjoyed the story and the world and the characters. And it was so short that I actually just like wanted more of it. So that I think that was actually my biggest complaint, is that I just wanted more.
But sometimes when you have like a smaller book, the message that you are trying to get across can be said with less. And it can be given to you in such like a gut punch way because you're just reading a smaller, compacted story. It's good to appreciate a work of art for what it is and not what it could be.
Oh, I totally get that. And that's why I'm saying like I did like it for what it was. I just like finished it and I was like, I wish it wasn't over. That's what I'm saying.
Oh yeah.
Like I wish it wasn't over. Because I do feel like, because like not a lot actually happens in the book, I feel like you could condense it down, and it's the great first act of a bigger story that I was actually really craving, because I wanted to know more about Viv and Tandri and what happens there, and I wanted it to keep going.
I do think that this book is very PG, and very.
Yes.
It's just enough when you're talking about like the love interest going on there. It's not spicy. It's romantic. You know,
Yeah,
it's a different vibe, this book.
Yeah, and it's almost like if it weren't for that short little peck kiss that they have, you almost wouldn't infer a romantic relationship between them, more of like a best friend dynamic, because it's very, you know, what's the word?
PG.
PG, yeah. Like
Yeah.
honestly, I did think that if you took out the couple of F-bombs that are in there, it actually doesn't even read so much YA as it reads kind of more middle grade books. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I love a good middle grade book.
Oh, me too.
Wyatt and I just read one.
I like
they're-
middle grade books.
Yeah, they're
Some
great.
of my favorite books of all time are middle grade books.
Yeah.
It's very Dungeons and Dragons or World of Warcraft. It made me think about.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting in my head because orcs in those universes are not at all attractive.
No.
Yeah, like most of the time when you hear about an orc, because Viv is an orc, a green orc, and most of the time when you hear about orcs, they're like massive and ugly and they're villain kind of characters or warrior type characters. So it was kind of interesting to see the character of Viv and like be inside her head and realize that just because she has this like big experience and has done, like, she's not like a monster.
Right. And that was kind of
Yeah.
one of the themes of the book is like not judge a book by the cover. Like Tandri being a succubus and people coming in with preconceived notions of her being an orc and everyone having a preconceived notions of orcs and all that stuff. So I liked that overall message of like just because you were born looking a certain way or whatever doesn't mean you have to accept the label. Like you can just be whoever you are and that's okay.
Right. I also loved the characters on the cover of the paperback edition. He really made Viv look very feminine.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, it's like a...
Yeah, kind of like Louisa from Encanto almost. Like feminine, but still like solid. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like feminine and kind of masculine at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think it's so cute, the cover.
Yeah, it's very cute.
One thing I was going to bring up, because we were talking about the Scalvert stone and the description of a Scalvert, which is a monster apparently, and that's where you get the Scalvert stone from, on page 162. A Scalvert stone, asked Tandri. Ever heard of them? I haven't. I mean, I suppose I know what a Scalvert is, mostly from children's stories. They're large and ugly and mean. Lots of eyes. More teeth than you'd like. Hard to kill. And the queen of a hive grows a stone here. Viv tapped her forehead. Draws the ring of fortune aspect of heart's desire. Tandri looked up at her. So it's what, a good luck charm? A handful of long dead people thought so. I'm not sure that's exactly what they meant, but the idea comes up again and again. There's a lot of old mythology around the stones, but you don't hear about them much these days. Probably because there aren't a lot of Scalvert queens around, and even fewer people willing to kill one. It's a little origin on the Scalvert stone.
Yeah.
And how you get one.
And then in the end, Gnome that plays chess outside tells them how they've been almost hunted to extinction because people have gotten the wrong idea about the function of the Scalvert stone. And I did like that it was definitely more of a symbolism and brought you your aspect of heart's desire, not in a financial way, but in the way that it draws the people to you. You know, like Tandri and Cal and Thimble and just the community of friends and found family that she comes to immerse herself in this new city.
I love the descriptions of things, the way that Travis Baldree describes. It's not just the message of the book, but the setting, the way that he writes about everything, the setting, the food, the coffee. I mean, you can almost smell the coffee and taste the beans. And he just has a very like cozy way of writing that makes you just want to eat a cinnamon roll right now.
Oh yeah, I almost door dashed myself some pastries while I was reading it. I stayed strong though. Well, and that's only because I realized that I had a pumpkin croissant from Trader Joe's in my freezer, so I shoved that in the oven and ate it while I drank my
Hey,
coffee.
that's a good compromise. It did make me want a chocolate croissant, and I really am not a croissant person.
Oh no,
No, I'm not a croissant gal. I just
that's
don't care
fair.
about them. I don't want to eat meat on them. I don't like them that much.
Fair.
There's too much going on. There's too much texture going on when I'm eating one. It's just.
All those flaky layers.
But it made me want one. I was like, man, I want that. Just the way I have the description of the cinnamon rolls on page 102. Carefully unfolding the cloth, Viv revealed a roll as big as her fist, almost too large to imagine eating. Soft bread wound in a spiral, with dark sugar and cinnamon nestled between the rings, and a thick, creamy glaze frosted the top and dripped down the sides.
Oh, so good.
Mm.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, like not a lot actually happens in the book, but that's kind of fine because like I also was never bored.
Oh yeah, no.
Like even though a lot of it is kind of mundane, kind of day-to-day things, like it somehow manages to not be boring.
Yeah, it puts you into that mindset. I mean, even for people, I'm sure for you, you had like a completely different experience than me because you actually worked with coffee. You worked at Starbucks, right?
Yeah, that was my very first job when I was 16. It brought me back.
Yeah, I did the coffee machine at our church,
That
which
half
was
counts.
yeah, it does half count because it's a Starbucks machine, but like it was like a daily part of your life because that was your job for a while, like when you were so young.
Yep. And my sister Nisi also worked there with me.
Oh yeah, Denise worked there. I forgot. Yeah, it also brought back all these memories of making the coffee in those machines.
Yeah, me too. And it also just like reminded me of all of my friends, like, because we had a couple other friends from church who also worked there with us, but then the friends that we made there, it was just the funnest first job ever. And I'm still friends like on Facebook with half of our original Starbucks crew. It's pretty great. Yeah, it was such a fun job.
Another thing this book made me want to eat was biscotti.
Yes, and I'm not a big biscotti person either.
I have
But
never had a biscotti, and I was like, that's a biscotti they're talking about. Biscotti!
biscotti. Already, I have 3 of them.
Well, it's just the way that they describe like dunking the coffee. I was like, I want some biscotti.
Biscotti.
Do you ever say words like that in your head when you're reading?
Yeah.
Like,
oh, okay. Well, I guess I'll save that one for it's in one of my quotes. I'll do it later.
Well, if you have it, then do it.
Okay. It was so cute, and literally ever since then I say it this way in my head ever since I read it.
I love it already.
It's on page 190, and they're putting out the sign for Pendry, the lute player that they get to come play music in the coffee shop. So they're putting out the sign. It says, "By the end of the day, another sign hung outside the shop, painted in Tandry's flowing script. Live music, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. 5 in the evening."
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Because it's spelled Mornday, Tauday, like Tauday, Ventus, and Friday. I'm like, I'm saying all of the names of the week that way forever. Monday, Tuesday, Ventus, Friday. I thought it was so cute.
Oh man, I had one too. Hold on.
Monday, Tuesday. Ventus, Friday. But there's only 4 days of the week, and I like that too.
But on page 193, it's when when the Dire Cats, Amity, chases away, what character is it? Fennis.
Mm.
When she chases him out of the shop when he breaks in.
Yeah.
The first time, when she gets the buzz in her hand or whatever from the wards breaking.
Yep.
And the cat chases him out of the shop. And she goes over to the dire cat and she's talking to him and she says, and it says, either way, Viv was going to make sure there was extra cream on hand and maybe a nice joint of beef.
What is it?
Like a joint of beef.
A joint
of beef.
Joint of beef. Like you just go down to the medieval PetSmart and get a joint of beef.
A joint. I'll take one joint of beef.
I need a joint of beef for my dog cat, yeah.
Joint of beef. Like I sat there and cracked up about that for like 5 minutes. Could not stop laughing. I don't know why.
Oh, that's funny. Tell me if you got this too, because I also thought of you while I thought of this. It really reminded me, especially the beginning and the whole setup and her setting up the shop and kind of ingratiating herself into the culture in the city was really reminding me of the movie Chocolat.
Oh, it reminded you of Chocolat. I didn't think about Chocolat.
Mm-hmm. She just sets up shop, sets up her little chocolate shop, and
I love that movie though.
So I have not watched that in a very long time, but it was really reminding me of that.
That's a really good juxtaposition.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that now. I'm surprised that our twin brains didn't pick up on that.
I'm really surprised because I was like, oh, Lita's totally gonna be.
I also loved that the magic system wasn't super extreme.
It was kind of vague. Like it was a vague, yeah.
It was like soft magic, It wasn't like magic is limitless.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. Like the blink stones, I thought that was a really cute way to communicate. Mm-hmm. Like they can't actually talk to each other. Yeah, it's just like a beeper. Like, hey, I need you.
Like a a medieval pager. Just throw it into the fire. And I will be there.
Good thing we have a blink stone. I loved, because usually I am not a big fan of introducing a character every 2 seconds. Usually I'm like, come on, take it easy. We don't need, where could all these characters
like everybody doesn't have to show up at once.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but
enter stage
book,
right.
They just kind of taper into the shop and it's just one character, and then a week later another character, and then another, and then it's all just part of the community that she's living in, the people that live around the coffee shop that she's interacting with. But they're all very different characters. Like you have gnomes, you have succubi, you have elves, orcs, humans. There's magic involved, and you never know who has it. There's a kind of a gang situation in the city, and then there's those cast of characters. There's some whimsical characters, like they have a huge dire cat. Love that idea, just saying.
Right? I
Love
was like,
the
that's
dire cat.
The dire cat, yeah.
What's her name? Amity, the dire cat, who's this giant cat that just comes in whenever she wants.
Like, I live here too now, I decided. and the dialogue was more like contemporary than like old school fantasy. Like it was easy to
put yourself there. It wasn't very complicated.
No, and honestly, I'm not saying this like necessarily as a bad thing, but just like a note would, because the front of the book says like high fantasy, low stakes. And I was like, I feel like calling this high fantasy is a stretch. Like, just because you throw, like, orc or elf or succubus, like, as descriptors doesn't equal high fantasy. Does that make sense? Like, is it in a fantasy setting? Sure. High fantasy is a stretch.
I wouldn't say this is high fantasy.
No, no. I wouldn't even have called this, I mean, it is low stakes, but it's almost like no stakes, almost. Like, because...
What do you mean? She's like building this whole life for herself. It is high stakes for her.
Well,
to
right, but
lose.
I feel like as a reader, I never felt like anything was at stake because it's like this is going to be a happily ever after book.
Oh, for me, it was like, I hope they don't lose the shop. Like, geez, that would be so detrimental for so many people,
Hmm.
you know? And there's this whole new community that centers around the coffee shop.
I guess I wanted
And
a little more stakes. Like when the Madrigal storyline was introduced, I was like, "Ooh, here we go." Like I like this. And
like losing the thing that you have spent your life trying to build is high stakes, though. I mean, right here on page 114, I do have a reference. Uh, and this is for like what happens to Viv. Like when she gets the shop up and going, you know, they have customers, they have the coffee going out, she's fulfilling her dreams. Page 114. Viv leaned on the counter, studying their faces, and saw at last what she'd been too nervous to hope for. She found it in half-lidded eyes and a slow, deliberate swallow, in cupped hands around the warmth of a mug and the lingering enjoyment of the last taste. It was the echo of her own experience, and a pleasant flush of recognition washed over her. And I love that Viv took something so small, like the peace and the calm that comes from enjoying a simple cup of coffee.
Mhm.
Uh, and her dream became wanting to provide that feeling to other people, you
yeah,
know,
I love
wanting to
that.
put something good and positive out into the world. And this is like the fruits of her labor. She wanted to change her path and become a different person, a better version of herself. And the rewards that come from that concept are something that money can't buy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And so for her, I think especially when the shop does burn down, and not just her, Tandri, everyone is so devastated by this loss. But I think it just hits Viv and Tandri the hardest. But especially Viv, because this has been her dream. And she is just decimated after that. She just acts so out of
Yeah.
it. And like she doesn't even know how to move forward from that. She's like, what now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I didn't mean like Viv had no stakes. I just like I said, I just like as a reader, I didn't feel like there was any stakes because I knew that everything would be fine. Like, give it a couple chapters, Viv, everything will work out.
Oh yeah, for
You
sure.
know,
It's very
that's what I
Disney.
mean. That's what I mean. Like,
Like I wasn't nervous. I was like sad though because all those memories of her like creating that space, like
yeah,
you kind of feel it along with her, you
yeah.
know?
Well, and then it almost ends up being this like blessing in disguise too because they were already outgrowing it.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
they were outgrowing it.
so it was almost like a blessing in disguise because then they could build a bigger kitchen and add the things that didn't make sense to add before. Um, but what I was gonna say earlier, like when the magical plot line was introduced, I was really excited about that, and I was like, I want her to kick some ass in between lattes. I think I just
It was very like, no, let's do this in a peaceful way.
like I was expecting kind of the like Viv to be the one that kind of comes in like, hey, I may make lattes, but I have a particular set of skills. Okay. You don't want to mess with me or our people in this city and kind of like do that, like, hey, you can't bully the people anymore. But she kind of ended up being more of she was basically Maggie Smith and was like, you can pay me in cinnamon rolls. It's fine. No biggie.
Well, I mean, if nobody else can make them in the whole city or get a cup of coffee from anywhere else, what would you do for a cup of coffee?
What would you do?
Now, I did like the idea that if you want to change your life and change something about your life and the way that it's gone so far, and you want to make a positive change, that sometimes you can't resort to doing the things that you used to do. You have to
Yep.
change those things too. And that's what Viv does. She says, you know, I'm not using violence. I'm not
Yeah.
doing it. Like, that's not the life that I want to build for myself here. Because there's some times throughout the book where she is contemplating, like, yeah, man, maybe I should just pick up that axe that's hanging on the wall and just take care of this shit because I know I can. But she thinks, but if I start backsliding, if I start going backwards and doing the things I used to do, what kind of person will that make me now? Will that actually take me farther away from where I want to be?
Yeah.
And she was able to solve so many problems without spilling a drop of blood.
Yeah.
And that is possible. I do it every day.
Mm-hmm.
Do it every day.
Yeah, it reminded me a little bit of A Knight's Tale when it's like, can it be done? Can a man change his stars? Like, yes, yes, William. If a man wants it enough, a man can change his stars.
Oh, like, I love Heath Ledger.
Oh, it's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Oh, and Thimble, the ratkin. Okay, first of all, the word ratkin, so cute.
Very
love
cute.
that.
Very
like
cute.
Ratkin.
Oh,
just a
Rattigan.
jumping mouse that. Oh my god, I was literally about to say it the entire time. Every time I read the word Ratkin, I was like, oh, Rattigan.
Rattigan. Oh, Rattigan. Yes.
From The Great Mouse Detective, which is a Disney movie.
I feel like it's an
really
underrated one.
It's totally. It's very dark too.
It is dark.
Man, that rat's pretty scary. And the bat.
The bat always freaked me out. The bat always freaked me out when I was a kid. He was always his voice was so creepy. He was always like he was always like grunting like
What scared me about him was like, especially at the very beginning of the movie when he just pops out, like pops through the door and he's got these big sharp teeth and he's like, and the voice he makes, he goes man, that movie has some scary moments. But I thought about, and also Jared used to sing that to me when like I would do something weird, he would be like, oh, Rattigan.
So random.
And he would sing it to me. He hasn't done that in a long time, but also made me think of that. Oh, can we also say his name is Rattigan, but he's always mad at people for saying he's a rat?
I am not a rat.
He's a fucking rat. Your name is Rattigan. Okay. Moving on.
On page 172, it was totally reminding me of going back to chocolate, the chocolate scene from Ever After when he's describing to Marguerite the taste of chocolate and he puts one in her mouth and she's like, oh, that's positively sinful. What's it called? Chocolate.
And she goes, that's positively sinful. What's it called?
Chocolate. The Spanish monks have been sending freaks of it. But in the book, on page 172, the way that he describes it, it just reminded me of that scene. What's that, Thimble? Asked Tandry. The baker broke off a sliver, popping it into his mouth and gesturing for them to do the same. Viv and Tandry each snapped off a small piece. Viv sniffed hers. The earthy smell was slightly sweet, almost coffee-like. She put the fragment on her tongue and then closed her lips. It melted, spreading throughout her mouth. She tasted dark bitterness with subtle flavors of vanilla, citrus, and in the far back a hint of something that reminded her of wine. It was both bold, creamy, and harsh, but alluring. I'm like, that's a good description of coffee. Chocolate. Man. Chocolate.
I want to go back a second ago when we were talking about, Viv not choosing to pick up her sword. She's just used the Blinkstone. Her friends have come. They're talking about what they're going to do moving forward to deal with the Madrigal, which at this point I'm wondering, why did she call them here? Because they don't end up really doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
They're just, maybe she just felt like she needed some counsel. And so they come, and she's thinking about if she needs to pick up black blood again. And and she says, this is on page 137, I don't really need anything else, though. I could feel it today. It was enough, and I don't mean to lose it. She's talking about the coffee shop and about defending it. And Tangerine then says, is it enough, though? She frowned and looked down. What they want to take from you, the reason it's so unattainable, it's because they'd be taking everything that you have. I'm just saying that maybe if you treated the rest of your life the same way you do the shop, invested in it the same way, then the cost would seem less. So don't put your whole self into one thing.
Yeah.
You know, your life is more than your job or the things that you do in your day.
Well, and basing your whole identity around just one aspect of your life, like it's your whole life.
Right. Is not, it's never going to work for you because you can lose anything.
Yep. At any time. Because if you have it's more of like your sense of self. Because if you have that, you can gain and lose anything, but you still have your center. You still have your foundation. And that's something that people can't take from you. It's knowing who you are.
That's probably something that a lot of people deal with too. Like, don't sell yourself short. Don't sell yourself short. Don't sell your worth short. A lot of people, I feel like, including myself, struggle with the feeling of worthlessness and about what other people are thinking about you, what other people are saying about you. And we just you put your heart and soul, everything. On page 248, Viv is giving her speech to everyone. She's giving her speech to everyone. The place has burned down. And everyone in her life has helped her rebuild it. They've rebuilt the coffee shop. They've made it better than it was before. Everything's done. It's about to reopen. And Viv kind of pulls everybody together and has like a talk. And all these people that were there when her shop was there before are the same people that helped her rebuild it. Mm-hmm. And she says, I'm not really good at speeches, so I won't try to make a good one. But I wanted to thank you, all of you. All of this was a gift you gave me, and I didn't deserve it. The things I've done in my life, I don't have any right to this kind of good fortune. But more than this place, I don't deserve you. If there was any justice in the world, I'd never have met you, much less have a scrap of your regard. And for a while, I thought maybe I'd cheated fate to have you near me. That I was bending the rules, forcing some impossible streak of luck, and any moment you find out who I really was, and then you'd be gone. But what a stupid thing to think, unfair to you. Did I really think so little of you? Did I think you couldn't see who I was really? Was I foolish enough to believe I could make you see something other than what was there? So I might not deserve you, and you might forgive too much, but I'm damned glad to have you. And that's something I think everybody deals with, like I was saying before. Don't sell yourself short or assume that you know how other people feel about you.
Yeah.
Or what they're thinking about you. That feeling of worthlessness comes with insecure thoughts about what people are thinking of your worth. Right. And they're not always doing that.
Well, right, exactly.
Yes.
And like she says, it's like it's such a disservice to the other person to be like, well, what did I do that made you think that I would think that of you? Because I didn't do anything to make you think that. So it's like when you're having those insecure thoughts, you like invent these thoughts that people are having towards you that have no basis in fact or reality. And then you start to behave and then react to these things that haven't even happened. It's like being mad at someone about a dream that you had about them, like when nothing's actually happened, you know, and they're like, why are you mad at me?
And not only that, you start thinking those things about yourself, and then you start believing them because you're reinforcing all this negativity in your own mind.
Right, and then you use your own confirmation bias to like substantiate those like intrusive thoughts.
Dude, that's something I do a lot.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah, I do it a lot. Like, I am constantly worried about what somebody means when they're talking to me. Like, what is the bottom line of what this sentence means, instead of just like taking it at face value. And I think that comes from like this want to know everything I can about every situation and to take it on perfectly. And there's been people in my life that have made me feel like that I'm worthless, like that my opinion doesn't actually matter, how I feel doesn't actually matter, and then I project that onto other people. And I think that that's something that probably happens with a lot of people. I mean, you don't even realize you're doing it. At some point, it just becomes like...
Well, and especially if you've been a victim of gaslighting too, I feel like that's a natural defense mechanism to be like, what do you mean by that? Because if you've been involved with someone or had someone around you who is like a narcissist or a gaslighter, they do those passive aggressive things, and you're always like, they're meaning two things at the same time. So I feel like it makes sense to have that just kind of start to be your like go-to, like...
That's so fascinating to me, because people who gaslight probably do the same exact thing, because they are very insecure with who they are. And that's why they feel like they need to control the narrative in the conversation.
Yeah. Well, and with gaslighters specifically, it's like they know exactly what they're doing to you when they say the things that they say. Like, if I say it this way, she's going to think that I actually mean this, and that's exactly what I want them to do. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's very on purpose.
I also love that Viv, she went back into the building after they were in the building when it caught fire, and it was like a magical fire with no smoke. That they
couldn't put it out with water.
Yeah, they couldn't put it out, and Viv broke through the wall and then went back in for Tandri, and then she went back in the building, and she really only had time to grab one thing, and she didn't grab the Scalvert stone. She didn't grab the axe. She went for the coffee machine. And I think that speaks volumes.
Yeah. Yep.
She said, what do I have to move forward from this?
Right. And in this moment, what's priority number one above everything else? Yeah.
Yeah. And that it was that. It wasn't any of the other two. I liked that messaging as well. Mm-hmm. There were so many like little things in this book that made me think about life differently.
Yeah, or just like reaffirm like lessons you've already learned, or just like to kind of remind you of things like that. Like there was things like you could definitely call some of those things cheesy, but like it's good cheesy, and it's heartwarming, and I think it's so something that you just don't see that often anymore. Like, give me like a cheesy 90s movie with a good message. Like, we've lost this.
That's right.
This book was like a feel good 90s movie. Like, is it cheesy? Yes. Is it whatever? Like, yeah, sure. But was it a great time?
Yes.
Also, yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Did it give you what you wanted from it? Yeah. And I feel
we should read the final menu items. The final menu when Legends and Lattes has its grand reopening on Thursday.
Monaco, the faintest Friday. What page did you say?
243. I don't know if it's the same for you because you have the special edition.
It's pretty close. Mine's on 242, so...
Ooh.
Damn close. Okay.
Legends and Lattes reestablished November 1386. Grand reopening menu.
You should say it in an accent.
I should not. November 1386 and 3/4. Grand reopening menu. That was good. That's my best accent. That's pretty much the only one I can do. You know.
Oh, me now? Coffee. Exotic aroma and rich, full-bodied roast. Half-bit.
Latte, a sophisticated and creamy variation. 1-bit.
Any drink. Iced. A refined twist. Add half-bit.
Cinnamon roll. Heavenly frosted cinnamon pastry. 2 bits.
No, it's 4 bits.
4 bits.
I'm gonna do this one like Moira Rose. Then blurts. Crunchy nut and fruit delicacies. 2 bits.
That was really good.
Thank you.
Midnight crescents. Buttery fold over with a sinful center. 4 bits. Inquire about traveling mugs.
What flames could not consume, never shall be extinguished.
Brava, my good man.
Did your book have the bonus chapter at the end?
No. Mate, what do you mean?
The bonus chapter. The after the epilogue, there's like a tiny little
It says
short.
acknowledgements.
There's a short story.
Oh, so the acknowledgements isn't 30 pages. Pages to Fill, A Legends and Latte Story by Travis Baldree. I had no idea this was here. So no, I didn't read it.
Well, it very much gave PG Assassin's Blade, and she's kind of like, it's like leading up to the moment where she has coffee, and it's like one of her quests or missions or whatever that puts her in the position of tasting coffee for the first time.
Oh,
and that's
my
how
God,
it ends.
I love that.
So you should do your
love that.
homework after we're done here and read it for your enjoyment.
Well,
yeah, it reminded me
shall.
of. It reminded me of. I'm like, this is like PG Assassin's Blade.
I haven't read Assassin's Blade, so.
Oh, that's right, you haven't.
I have not.
By Sarah J. Maas.
By Sarah J. Maas. Will you look at that?
Did you listen to the audiobook at all?
I did not.
So Travis Baldree is actually the narrator also.
I know. He is a very famous narrator. He's done a lot of audiobooks. A lot.
I will say, like, I was half into it. Like, some of the voices he did really well, and then I will say his voices for the females were, it made me laugh every time.
It always fascinates me when they choose to have a male narrator for a female protagonist book.
Right, and I think that the only reason that was in this one, because he was also the author. This was like more of a passion project. Like, it's not like he signed on with a big publisher and got this published. Like, this literally started out as a NaNoWriMo project. So
he did not. I read in the acknowledgements or the first page. I didn't read past that, or I would have seen that there was another chapter. But I read at the beginning of the acknowledgements that he did not expect that this book would be received in the way that it was. It was just so massive, the response. And I think it's because, I really do think it's because that there are so many themes in this book that people can relate to.
yeah.
It's very relatable themes about life and about looking at your life differently and putting positive energy into the world. And it's just a warm cup of coffee of a book.
Mm-hmm. The only thing that confused me at times when I was listening to the audiobook is you don't really experience this when you're reading it, but Pendree and Tandree sound the same when you're listening to it. And I was like, wait, who are we talking about? Pendree or Tandree?
Oh, I could see that, yeah.
Yeah. Whereas like in the book, like they're spelled completely different and you wouldn't like confuse them. But like in the audiobook when he was saying both, I was like, wait. Who is
kind of
this
like
now?
an Evelyn Hardcastle.
Yeah.
Dance, Darcy, Davy, Daniel.
Well, you know what's funny? I was actually like listening. I was listening to that clip the other day on one of our promos, and you were like, he could have thrown in a Roger, and there was a whole character named Roger. He did throw in a Roger.
That is so me of me.
And it was also, I'm like, damn, I didn't even pick up on that when you were saying that. Like, oh, the butler is named Roger. There is a Roger in there. One last well, I have a couple note that I had that I thought was gonna happen, and I was like, ooh, but then it didn't end up happening. But I thought it would have been kind of cool to take the Scalvert Stone poem that she bases this life venture on. I think it would have been cool to add like that extra plot layer, because one of the lines in the poem is the Scalvert's stone a fire. And it made me wonder, I'm like, oh, did that actually like activate the Scalvert stone? Like, did Fennis actually like do her a favor by like setting the fire?
Right.
And like activate and that didn't really end up
no, because when she went back for the stone, it was gone. He took it.
It was gone. Yeah.
When did he take it, by the way?
I know, right? Like, and how did he know like exactly which stone it was under? Because like she buried it. Like he would have to like have had like a locator spell or something. I don't know. Like,
unless he went in there, stole the stone, and then set it on fire, which is fucked up. Because they used to be teammates.
Yeah.
They used to be, well, they weren't ever really friends, but they worked on the same crew.
Yeah.
They were like an adventuring crew or a...
Yeah.
Fahaya.
I thought it was sweet that all of them, like her old, aside from Fennis, of course, came back to help her. I thought that was really sweet. I was going to do a reference quote there, where I was talking before, where like the Scalvert Stone ended up being more symbolic for like drawing in people into your life versus like financial riches into your life. They say on page 233, it's after the fire and all that, and they're rebuilt, and they're talking with that gnome.
The one that plays chess?
The one that plays chess. And so before she was keeping the stone a secret, and now that she's like, well, now that's gone and everything, it doesn't really matter. Viv says, a Scalvert Stone. I feel like a twice-blasted fool about it, but I once heard... Ah, yes, interrupted the old gnome with a nod. I'm very familiar. There's a reason there are so few these days, Scalverts. Unfortunate. Nearly hunted to extinction, they were. Really? That got Viv's undivided attention. Been many a year, but too many old legends and songs mythologize them. Ring of fortune and all that foolishness. He shook his head sadly. Like lodestones for luck or wealth, or so many believed. And they aren't? Asked Handry. Well, replied the gnome, tugging at his mustache, not the way folk hoped. So it was for nothing, then. Viv shook her head bitterly. Hell's all it managed to get was the place burned down. If I'd never kept it here, Fennis would have left well enough alone. We could have avoided all of this. I wouldn't be so sure of that. But you just said, I said not the way folk hoped, didn't say that it didn't work at all. What'd it do then? Asked Cal. That old song was a bit misleading. The stones never granted fortune, but they were gathering points, you might say. You'd find a few who'd know it these days, but the ring of fortune is an old sea fae phrase. It means a destined cadre, I suppose. Individuals brought together, like to like, which can be fortunate, of course. Sometimes nothing's more fortunate than that. But that wasn't what most were seeking, although maybe they should have been, eh? And now they have their little family.
Fennis taking the Scalvert Stone is going to attract people to him that have the same wickedness he does.
Yes, exactly.
I love that.
It's like the like calls to like thing. It's like your karma's going to get you. And then in the end, Amity, the dire cat, is like, rawr!
Yeah, because... And I love that ending, too, because you know what happened, but you didn't need it.
Yeah.
It was like, yes! It was like the end of a cartoon.
Yes.
I loved it.
Yeah.
So warm.
Yeah. I also like that random Hemington guy that would sit in the shop with his research with the ley lines and things like that. And I did think that there was going to be a little bit more to him because like he was like very specifically refusing to eat or drink anything in the shop. I'm like, what is he? Is he like a creature that can't have things? Like, I don't eat hot drinks. And I was like, oh, invent iced coffee now. And then she does in a little bit.
I love the steampunk aspect of it. Like in this book, the gnomes is where coffee originated from. And they make the espresso machine or the coffee machine, whatever you want to call it. And it's very steampunk the way that it's described. So it still kind of stays medieval, but you still have like this machine that is operated with heat.
And then they like invent air conditioning for the kitchens with the fans and things.
Yeah, I love it because there was like this modern feel to it, but also very like soft magic.
Yeah. And also like
like the Weasley house.
Like the Weasley house. And also like hook, line, and sinker, because I feel like without the fantasy aspect, it wouldn't have stood out in the same way. But I feel like if you're a person that likes fantasy, you're like, if this were a contemporary book, then I'd be like, boring. But I'm like, oh, an orc, you say? A kingdom, you say?
Medieval, you say?
Oh. Sign me up.
Be right. Sign me up for the next war.
Next war. Would you like to stay for dinner? Would you like to stay forever? Oh my god.
Josh. Joshua.
Do you want to know? Never mind. It's so dumb.
Of course I want to know. Now I want to know more.
This is so dumb, but do you want to know anytime I hear the name Joshua said all the way? Like, if it's not just Josh and it's Joshua, do you know what I think every single time, like my entire life and to this day?
What?
Is just that chick yelling and screaming it in the 10 Commandments. Joshua! It's like... Joshua! Joshua!
Oh, I'm fucking dead.
Oh, you guys, I cannot tell you and explain how many times I've been forced to watch the 10 Commandments as a child. Like, my grandma would babysit us, and I'd be like 6 years old, and I would be like, can I watch Scamper the Penguin? She's like, no, we're watching 10 Commandments. I have seen that movie a ridiculous amount of times.
My grandmother always tried to watch Schindler's List with me.
Ha! That's not a...
Yeah, that's a rough watch for a kid.
Yeah, you know what? 10 Commandments is too, because it's like 4 hours long.
She's like, this is what happened to my parents. Well, I mean, I don't think that actually happened to her parents, but like, her parents were Polish. They were from Poland. So she's like, this is what happened to our people. And I'm like, this is terrifying. I'm 5.
Right? Like, too soon. Too soon. I have this very specific memory from when I was like 5 or 6, and Denise, my little sister, she had a really intense seizure, and we had to call the ambulance, and like the paramedics came and like wrapped her in a towel and took her, and it was really scary. And my grandma came to stay with me while my parents rode in the ambulance to the hospital with Denise, and I was like, well, I don't want to go to sleep because I'm scared, like what's going to happen to Niecy. And my grandma's like, it's okay. We'll just pray and watch 10 Commandments. And I was like, can we just please watch something? So she put on 10 Commandments again for the bajillionth time. And I was like, never mind. I'm just going to go to bed. I cannot sit through this movie again. I'm too worried about my baby sister. I don't want to watch slaves getting whipped and shit. I just...
Let's watch Roots.
Like, right? Like, Jesus.
Like, God. He just sits down and says, let's pop in Roots or the 10 Commandments or Schindler's List. Let's pop it in.
My grandma
the grandparents,
did.
the grandparents, the baby boomers.
The religious ones.
They're like, you need to know about these things. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm 5. I don't even know how to tie my shoes.
Read the room, Grandma. Read the room. Not the time. Okay. Are we into
ready
quotes?
for quotes? We're doing quotes now.
I feel like we're ready for quotes. Do you feel ready?
We're ready
for
quotes? I'm ready.
Right. Page 71. Viv just says, "What in the 8 hills?" said Viv.
It's usually 7.
Yeah, it reminded me of Game of Thrones. Like, oh, 7 O's.
7 O's.
7 O's. But this one is 8. Like, what in the 8 hills? 8. And 8's my favorite number. So I like that. So I feel like...
I wish there were 8 hells for real. Because I like 8.
Well, I actively say 7 hells all the time. Like, when I'm annoyed about something, I'm always just like, oh, 7 O's. I feel like it helps.
I have one, page 12. Viv didn't answer for a moment, but then she stared hard at him. Things don't have to stay as what they started out as.
Yep. Love that. Page 135. It was when that asshole Kellen comes in and starts like bothering Tandry, and he's like, "Oh, like, don't you want to hop on this?" And she's like, "We're not a thing. We've never been a thing." Like, ugh. And he is like vaguely threatening, and he says, "Hate to see this place burn to the ground," said Kellen, with an extremely punchable grin on his face. Like, you just like want to punch it right off him. And then again on page 167, he's back around. Viv glanced at the door, and there stood Kellen, again wearing an expression that begged to meet a fist.
Okay, page 46. What's a latte? Bean water with milk. That sounds just...
But it's like also such an accurate description, like it just on a baseline.
That's
like
exactly
bean water with milk.
I just love it. Like, that's a description. Like, that's a terrible description. That makes me not want that.
But it's also so accurate, which is funny.
I know. Yeah. So, thus I noted it, my good man.
You're so good at noting.
Thank you. All right, your turn.
Page 171. I just thought this was like a really beautiful interaction. It was the neighbor across the way, and she was like this sweet old lady, and
Lainey,
and she's talking with Viv, and she's like unsure about things, and she says, "You've found a very peaceful place here, a special place. You've planted something, and now it's blossoming. Very nice. A good spot to rest. My thanks to you for letting an old-timer shade under the branches of what you've grown."
Oh, I like that a lot.
Yeah, it was just like really sweet, and just like the metaphor of like, you know, the planting the seed of an idea or in a desire, and then watching it bloom and grow, and then to have somebody like see it and acknowledge it to you is like one of the most satisfying and rewarding and confirming things. And I just loved that. I thought it was really sweet.
That's great. I like that too.
Yeah.
Page 131. This is the lyrics from Pendry's song. And
you have to sing it.
I don't know the melody, so I'm not doing
Make
that.
one up.
Nope. Here we go.
Dang it.
Page 131. This is the lyrics to the song, and it's like a poem kind of form. The price of what I meant to do was higher when the day was through. And when I took a different road, I almost couldn't feel the load. There's a lot, and that's one thing. That's why I loved this book. There's so many little moments like that, just scattered throughout the writing, that just are warm and make you think about your life in positive ways to change it.
Yeah.
And I just that's a perfect example.
All right, my last one that I've got, again, just like made me chuckle. Page 173, Kellen is taking something. He turned with the second hand, startling when he saw Viv, and she was like prepared for a confrontation. Recovering quickly, he rushed out the door, and then Viv just says, "Huh," said Viv, watching him go. "I'll be twice damned." It just made me think of the old lady in Titanic, where she's like, "Huh, I'll be goddamned."
I've got 3 more quotes.
Ooh.
Page 136. And the line is, "Shut up, you insufferable shit weasel." And I like that shit weasel. I was like, ha, I like that.
Shit weasel, that's good. Should bring it back.
I'm gonna store that for later. Can't wait to meet a shit weasel. Page 241. Viv had gone back after the fire had died down to try and salvage what she could from the coffee shop. And she left behind the stone. She left behind her axe. She left everything in her loft. She lost everything except for the coffee machine and a little bit of funds that they had from the cash box. And she leaves the axe there. And when she goes back, it's completely warped and destroyed from the heat. It's cracked. It's unusable. It's garbage. And she throws it out with the trash when they're hauling away all the debris. And Tangerine saves it, and she incorporates it into the sign that they hang above the shop, the new Legends and Lattes
That was
sign.
really cute.
And
That
I
was
liked
really
that.
sweet.
The quote is on page 241, and it's right after she gives her the sign. It's a gift. And it says, "I was thinking that you don't have to forget who you were, because that's what brought you here." And that is so true. Even the bad things that happen to us, you don't have to hate your past.
Yeah. Even if it was hard or there was things that you wish you could change.
You wouldn't be where you are now without those things that you've been through. And I thought that was a really beautiful sentiment.
Yeah, I really love that too.
And my very last quote, the fire has happened and Viv is kind of gone into this like depressive state where she's just like sleeping on the floor at Tandree's apartment. She's not getting up. She doesn't want to even live, I think. She's just completely destroyed inside from the loss of the shop, which she spent her life trying to build, which is just gone. And she doesn't have the stone and she has no money. And everything's gone. And she's lashing out at them because they're trying to help her. And I thought it was such a realistic description of what it is like when you are angry and yelling at someone and you don't mean what you're saying, but the anger has just taken over your body.
Yeah.
Like the emotion has just taken over your body. And that really resonated with me. This is a description of lashing out with anger when she's suffering. Page 224. A part of her understood that she was hurting them, wounding these people who were friends, that some older, crueler self was emerging, crawling from the wreckage of who she thought she had become. The newly ruined part of her cried out for her to stop, to let it be for now, but the crueler self was ascendant, its opponent too weakened and diminished to intervene. And look what happened. You know, she felt that anger, but without that anger, there's no motivation.
Mm-hmm.
You need the anger. The anger, you can turn that into passion to rebuild.
Yep. And
with this found family.
Yeah, and like letting it vent out instead of slow boiling over time, you know, just like it gets it out of your system and then you can move on from it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's healthy. That's healthier than hanging on to it and almost like letting it stew inside and just kind of poison you from the inside out. Like it's healthy to have that just like, ah. Yeah, do we want to do, I've got some Goodreads stats.
Let's do Goodreads stats.
Goodreads stats. Okay, so this book on Goodreads has a 4.10 rating. There are 200 and, as of when I looked at it, 238,110 ratings with 44,497 reviews. The majority of people rated this book 4 stars, over 95,000 people, 40%. And less than 1% gave it 1 star. Only 1,673 people at the time that I looked at this.
Wow, that's not a lot.
And that is less than 1%. So
that's still a lot of people. Like if they were in your house, you wouldn't be able to move.
That's true. That many people would not fit inside my house.
Exactly. Like put that into perspective. It's time for 1-star reviews.
1-star reviews.
1-star reviews.
Star reviews. M. Gregg said, the target demographic for this book is people who have never read a book, but who have spent their lives in coffee shops watching other people read books and wondering what it might be like to read a book themselves. I am not the target demographic for this book. 1 star. Sophia, fantasy book addict, says, I feel bamboozled and betrayed.
I love that word.
I genuinely don't understand the hype. I often hear this pitched as a cozy fantasy, but it's the most boring fantasy I've ever read in my entire life. The plot was non-existent, the characters fell flat, and the character dynamics poorly explored. At one point, I was actively rooting for Viv's downfall. Not because I hated her as a character, but because I was so bored. Clearly, I'm not the target audience.
Too clearly, I'm not the target audiences. I would agree.
Barbara says, what the fuck? Why is this book so hyped? I was literally reading it like a manual. It was like reading a manual on how to open a cafe for dummies. I swear, I don't get it. Ari, a bunch of numbers and symbols, says, legends and lattes? More like lacks and letdowns.
That's clever. I like that.
Yeah. Peach Clover says, so here's my advice. If you want to read a story about an orc who opens medieval fantasy Starbucks, combating the more common entertainment of drinking alcohol, while making friends along the way who add baked goods to the store and ultimately results in warm, cozy feelings for the success of honest work, read Star Tests by Jeff Botone, a short story published suspiciously exactly 1 year before this book. And I read that. I actually went, because in his review, or their review, there's like an attachment to it. So I clicked on it and I did read the short story. It's called Star Tucks, and it's literally a it's a very similar concept, but it's definitely a stretch to like imply that it was like stolen from this story. Also, it's a very obscure corner of the internet that you'd have to very specifically be looking for. So Lauren Bichelle says, this book was trash city and I can't wait to roast it at book club.
The city? Not trash city.
Layla is a picky reader, says 1.5 stars. Cute but pretty bland and superficial. None of the characters leave a deep impression. The scenes are repetitive and the dialogue is completely forgettable. The sapphic romance is a nice touch but underdeveloped. I do want a thimble for myself, though. Barb says, this feels like a D&D campaign in which players always roll a nat 20, have proficiency in everything the plot requires, and the DM came up with a homebrew class called Barista. The players receive 1 brew slot for each time they level up, because why the hell not?
Wow, that's someone who knows a lot about Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. Joe Ladd says, "Ho! My God! Welcome again in the kingdom of opinion minority." I don't know why, but I was certain.
I've been
I don't
here
know.
before.
I don't know why, but I was certain that this book would be a hit for me. I just felt it. Now I realize that not even my guts are worthy of trust.
What's this guy's name?
Joe Ladd. Jollad. This last one I don't really know how to say. Fifely?
Sounds good.
The dialogue is like a Hallmark movie or the Star Wars prequel scripts. This definitely reads like the first draft of a NaNoWriMo project. The author's just describing things to fill the word count, but the story isn't going anywhere and there's nothing happening. I almost hurled the book across the room when the resolution of the threat, quotes, of the mobsters who are just extorting people all over town and is to pay them in cinnamon rolls. I had to check the book's details again to make sure I wasn't reading a board book for babies. For the record, the only reason I didn't throw it was because I borrowed it from a friend.
Well, he's obviously never had a fresh cinnamon roll.
What is this? A board book for babies? So final thoughts and ratings. Lita,
This was
your book. You go first.
Okay. Guess I'm going first. Here we go. First up is me. The Ring of Fortune. It's not the materialistic things in life that you accrue and obtain that makes you fortunate, but the people you meet and choose to surround yourself with along the way. The literal rebuilding of the coffee shop can't help but feel metaphorical. You can rebuild your life with the help of others. If you let your walls down and believe in people and are kind to one another and help each other, what you give is what you get in life. Like calls to like. You can receive so much through love in unexpected ways. When I close a book feeling a message like that makes me feel warm and cozy and looking at life in a different way, I say that is a 5-star book. 5 stars from me.
Wow, really?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. This was a really cute book. I did like it. And I feel like it was the perfect book at the perfect time for me. I was a little surprised about how popular it is because how do I say this? I feel like I definitely liked it a lot, but I also did not understand how big the hype of it was. Because I felt like it was a more like a good bones for a bigger story that I really craved because I really loved the characters. And I just like wanted more of them. I think that was, again, I said that earlier, like that was my biggest complaint. Like it just like, I wanted more. I wanted more. I feel like there's almost like not much more to say because it was it was a simplistic story, and it's a very sweet like book that you got a lot out of as far as like warm fuzzy, warm cozy. Not a lot happens in the book, but that's okay. I really enjoyed myself reading it, even though it was a little mundane. I gave it 3 stars. It was 3 stars for me, and I think that if I had maybe read it during a different time, it might have been a different rating, but like I ran it up to 3. Sorry if that's an unpopular opinion, because like
if we don't both rate 5 stars, we'd never go 5. So we'll be rounding to 4.
4.
Sound good?
Group rating.
Group rating 4.
4. It was just like one of those things where it was like, oh, like kind of like the same feeling that you get when you finish a cup of coffee. You're like, wow, that was really good. I wish I had more of it. Right. Well, On to the
Well,
next thing.
that's why you should read Bookshops and Bone Dust, which is
Yeah, I
prequel
am
to
actually
Legends and Lattes.
I am very curious to read that one. I think that will be a nice one. I'm really curious. I feel
Make
like
some
everything
future
I said
plans to read
made it
it.
seem like I hated it. I liked it. I did like it a lot. But it wasn't but it wasn't a 5-star for me.
And that's okay. Because everybody has an opinion. And everyone has an asshole, and you're an asshole.
You bitch.
I'm kidding.
But I'm really glad it was a 5-star for you because you picked it and you really
I
wanted
love
to
it.
read it.
I feel like it was exactly what I needed when I read it. I was like,
oh, me
it was just
too.
very it was just,
but
I
it
felt
still
so
wasn't
good.
5 because I feel like 5 stars for me is like reserved to like books that changed my life. This book did not change my life, but it was exactly the right book for exactly the right time, and I definitely enjoyed reading it. I really did.
Good, I'm glad. All right, well, there you guys have it.
There you go.
Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree.
Legends and Lattes. I feel like I let you down.
Why do you feel it? Stop it! You're doing the thing that Viv does.
I am doing the thing.
You're doing the thing.
I'm doing the thing.
I'm saying. Like, it's this like subconscious paranoia that people are thinking something differently than what they're conveying to you. That they're not being honest with you about how they feel about you. I feel like you rate on a scale that is honest to you, and that's what you should do.
Yeah.
Yeah. We all have different opinions and we all experience different things when we read. Like for me, when I read this, it did kind of change my life a little bit. Just like that thing we just brought up again. Like that's something I see now about myself I didn't see before I read this book.
Love that.
Do you see what I'm saying? So like, for me, that's a 5-star read because it did make me look about things a little bit differently and about myself a little bit differently. And that's not the easiest thing in the world to achieve. Especially on a grand scale. So for me, 5 stars resonates with me, but it doesn't have to resonate with you because everyone gets different things out of books, and that's the beauty of reading. So I don't care what you rate it. Like if we do Whiteacre and you rate it 2 stars, that will hurt me. Because that's my favorite book of all time. But like this is just
no. I will say that,
and that's half the fun.
I know it
half
is.
the fun.
It is.
If I hate it and you love it, or if you love it and I hate it, that makes the discussion get deeper. Every author brings something to the table.
Yeah.
Or brings something else to the table.
Unless it's Tyra Banks. I don't feel like
she does bring something to the table.
She's bringing hilarity to the table.
I'll tell you exactly what Tyra Banks is bringing to the table right now with Model Land, which we are going to be doing in season 2.
Dead.
Prepare yourself for Model Land. I don't even know how I'm going to get through that book. There is literally not a page. You can open it to any page and paragraph, and it's the most ludicrous thing you've ever read in your life. Every time. How?
How is this even a thing that's real?
How is this? No, not even if that's even possible. But yes.
And it's like 600 pages. It's 600 pages.
And the word that I would describe Tyra Banks' writing style, the perfect word, is chaos. It's just chaos. You have no idea what's happening. It's like, where am I?
I'll hearken it back to earlier. Bamboozled.
Bamboo. But here's the thing, that's exactly what I was expecting, and it does not disappoint, my friends.
We haven't even read it yet.
Terror ride.
When Lita was here, she brought our copies, and we just would flip to random pages and just read a few sentences, and just that alone was just so unhinged. It's so
No, you know what? I'm gonna do it right now. Hold on. I'm gonna do it right fucking now.
Oh my god. Yes.
Model Land by Tyra Banks. We're just gonna flip open a page and just start reading, and you're gonna see exactly what we're saying. Hold on, let me go get mine.
I have mine right here.
Like, I genuinely don't even know how we're gonna do quotes for this book because the entire book is.
Oh, the entire book is a quote.
Okay, ready? I'm gonna flip. Ready. Oh, and if you didn't know this, the main character's name is Tookie de la Cream. That's TOOKIEDELACRE-ME. Okay, ready?
Oh my god.
Y'all listen to me right now, Dylan yelled, trembling. There may be different types of girls in this room from different countries all over this damn different world, but y'all have one thing in common, and I refuse to stand here and state the obvious. She gestured to her body. Y'all can debate unique features this and athletic looks that all damn day long, but what in the hell is unique about me? A waist as wide as this damn sphere is round, legs as thick as tree trunks, a butt as big as the Beau Big Boutique Nation? Oh, ladies, do not waste any more of my precious time with your nonsense word war, because none of it, not a smidgen, not a drop, not a damn thing pertains to me. What is that?
Oh my god. So stupid.
Look, this guy's name is Matt Joe. One word. Matt Joe.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Okay, but
here's this is just some other names I'm seeing as I'm Zarpessa.
Oh yes, my Unicus.
Shiraz. Like the wine.
So bad.
Your turn.
Okay. Is she dead? Zarpessa chirped a little too excitedly. Desperada's body jolted and she struggled to stand. Slowly she rose to her feet, facing away from the crowd, her hair blowing in the howling wind. She brought her hands to her face. Tookie looked around at her friends. She's seeming okay, Shiraz said. Gennaro snorted. Be patient, little midget. The show has just begun. Desperada, turn to your adoring public.
She said midget?
What?
There is your sneak peek.
That is from chapter 31. Despairing Desperation is the title of the chapter.
My favorite part, just like flipping through the pages already, is the fact that the smize, which is like Tyra's made up word for smiling with your eyes, is like an actual thing that moves on her face.
It's so stupid. This book is like if someone tried to write a 600-page book about a dream that they had one time.
So Model Land by Tyra Banks, that is going to be featured next year in season 2. I'm very excited.
Because in case you didn't catch on to this about us, as much as we love to rave about the books that we love, we also love to roast books that are terribly written.
Well, not just that are terribly written, that make us laugh.
It brings us equal amount of joy.
It makes me laugh. Like, The Merman's Kiss was a 1-star book. But
you had a 5-star time. It's a 1-star book and a 5-star time.
Right?
Ooh, we should hashtag that. That should be on a t-shirt.
It's like watching a good B movie sometimes.
So, our next book club book for December. Lita, you also picked this one. You did 2 in a row. That's fine.
I did 2 in a row. Yay. Winter in New York by Josie Silver.
Woo! I've never read her.
We are going to be reading Winter in New York by Josie Silver. And that episode will come out December 31st, just after Christmas.
Nice, cozy, wintry read.
I am a fan of Josie Silver. One of my favorite books is The Two Lives of Lydia Bird, which just blew me away.
That was her. You've talked to me about
Yes.
that book before. I need to read that one.
And then I also read a book of hers called One Day in December, which was also a really great book. It's just about these women and like some of the things they're going through and what they do in their lives to change their lives. It's just a really great. She's a good author. I like her, and I'm very optimistic about Winter in New York. I have not read it, so I do, and I love that that setting, like a winter in New York City.
Yes.
So like outside of my spectrum of understanding.
Right? Anything in New York seems so far removed, but also it's like Christmassy, but it's not like Christmas themed. It's just winter. So
yeah.
So if you're like inundated with like the Christmas stuff, like it is not based on the jacket Christmas themed.
So, Tiffany, what else did we read this month?
Well, we are continuing our ACOTAR journey on our Bookmate Besties episode, and we have my sister Denise back on to do A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas, of course. So if you caught our ACOTAR Bookmate Besties episode and are interested in continuing that journey with us, that episode is also now available along with this one for a little double booked action. It is a really good time. I highly recommend you go over and check it out.
Oh, it's fun, guys.
It's a real fun time. And Denise
we
is a
talk
hoot,
about
as always.
wieners. We talk about wieners.
Because the spice starts getting spicy in Akamath.
That's right. And also...
and also...
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
The most wonderful
of the year.
Of the year.
Christmas time.
Dong,
or holiday
ding,
season.
Dong.
Sorg. And we will be reading Murder on the Christmas Express by Alexandra Benedict. And that episode will be coming out on December 15th. So if you want to get a little bit of Christmas in there, but also a little bit of murder, we will be reading Murder on the Christmas Express.
It's Christmas, but make it dark.
Right. Krampus! I've got a Krampus. That's what I say when I have a cramp. Oh, my Krampus.
Yeah, so we'll be double booked again in December. So Winter in New York, Murder on the Christmas Express.
Let us know what you think. You can email us at bookmatespcast@gmail.com, and you can find all of our socials through our website at www.bookmatespodcast.com.
And if you need somewhere else to find us, like Leah said, we're on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and we're also on YouTube. And there are visual versions of all of our episodes on YouTube if you are more of a visual person.
And you like visual stimulation.
Yeah, they're fun extras, video clips, pictures, fan art, all the things. It's a fun time. Go check us out over there, and...
You'll see everything but our faces.
The eternal mystery. And if you have read Winter in New York or are reading Winter in New York with us, we would love to know what you thought about it. Email us all of your thoughts, feelings, opinions. What's your star rating for it? Email us at bookmatespcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you think. We want to know what you guys think, because book club is only as good as its next member. No? Most book clubs consist of more than 2 people. No.
Oh my god, he snorted.
I snorted. It's book club. We want to know what you think. So let us know if you want to hear your thoughts out of our mouths on this podcast. Let us know.
Gold. That's staying in there.
Let us know what you think. We would love to hear from you guys. Or if email seems intimidating or too much, you can also DM us on Instagram and you can get a shout out on the podcast. We would love to hear all of your thoughts. We should
Well, I love you.
I love you. We should say goodbye to the Bookmates too. Bye, Bookmates.
Bye,
Bookmates.
Bookmates.
Bye, Bookmates. See you next month.
Love you.
Love you too.
All right, good night.
Bye. Good night.